few minutes for people to join. Once we reach like around 50 viewers, we will get started here. How's the weather in Europe?
Hot.
It's actually
middle of
sunny in
winter here.
Scotland for one.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Very rainy here.
Perfect. And
Yeah,
then,
rainy season in Cape Town.
Okay. Awesome. And I'm gonna ask these questions in order based off of your Discord name. Just easiest for me to go that way.
Very rainy.
Okay. One of you guys have a lot of background noise. Not sure who it is. Okay. About one at a time, can you guys mute yourselves just so we can see who's making the background noise? So, the Nut, do you want to mute yourself? Okay. I think that might be it.
That might have been it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's silent now.
Okay. Yeah. Figure out how you guys want to address it, or just keep your mic muted when you guys are not talking.
I think that wasn't us. There are no noises here. I think it was Michael.
Okay, Michael.
Oh,
Just-
It's over now. I think he closed the door. So
okay, you good now?
yep, I can't hear anything. So if everyone else is silent, then that's good.
Okay, I think we are good. How's everyone in the chat? It looks like some people. Ryan says you guys are awesome, which
Thank
I
you.
concur.
Thanks, Ryan.
hey, Ryan, you are awesome.
Okay, Caleb, from your perspective, how was the European finals?
Ooh.
Oh, it was great. It's just from a viewer experience too. It was just the quality of the video was high in the stream, and it was just very well organized. Wasn't really any lag time between matches for the most part, and I think there were very few matches where even there needed to be rematches due to lag or any other issues. So yeah, I mean, I was, and of course, the main thing was also the reactions from you and Zionic were definitely
Awesome.
priceless. I've probably gone through and rewatched certain parts of the tournament just to
Yeah.
see those reactions again.
I had no idea how much Zionic and I would get memed from from that season 1 championship. And
It was perfect.
yeah, even to be honest, even the one match that did get rematched, it was actually like a really good discussion because it really broke down the difference between like even one fast move being lagged and like really showed the breakdown in importance, and it really showed the competency in the judges to recognize that even though the match itself showed that it was like a pretty big landslide, but because of that one fast move being lagged, it actually like resulted in the whole change of the match. So I think that was like if there was going to be any like rematch, that was a pretty interesting one to talk about and to look at. All right. Okay. Let's see. We are good. All right. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Let's get started. So thank you, everyone that's come to join this live stream where we're going to be interviewing the European Season 1 finalists. They put on a fantastic show a couple weeks ago and did a really amazing job, and their performances were definitely very memorable. and some of their performances, I believe, were a strong influence on Niantic in terms of rolling back on the Switch issue that we had a few days ago. So I think that's really notable. And today I'm joined with Caleb, who's going to be interviewing with me. Caleb, why don't you give a 30-second blurb about yourselves?
Sure, absolutely. So I am a player from Atlanta, Georgia. I went to Worlds in Chicago. I'm probably most notably known for bringing a Lugia into regionals against a lot of people's advice. But yeah, that's pretty much me. I didn't do as well in Chicago as these guys, but I'm happy to be here and have a conversation with them.
Yeah, and Caleb has a YouTube channel, so you should definitely check it out. A lot of really great content, especially when it comes to some off-meta Pokemon. He has a really great video on Wigglytuff, so if you want to catch up on the meta, definitely check that out. So we have a series of questions that we have already recorded and noted. So I'm going to go in order based off of their names I have on our Discord chat. And the first question that we have is, first tell us your name, tell us where you're from, and then tell us about your Pokemon Go journey, including how PvP has changed it. So when we started with Benny Fly.
Hi, I'm Benny. I'm from Darmstadt, Germany. Before PvP, I just played a little bit more casual, but starts the competition also makes arenas or want to be better than the others. And with PvP, I could do it. I could beat the other matches. And very fast, our community makes their own tournaments. And we meet the other communities, also like Mainz, Frankfurt, and so I have 3 or 4 tournaments a month. And I really like the PvP.
Yeah, no, I could definitely tell that you're very enthusiastic about PvP, and that's great. And I think it's a great supplement to your gameplay. Now we turn over to Evan.
Hey, I'm Evan Walther. I'm originally from Ohio, most of my adult life in New York, but I live in Cape Town now. So I started playing, I don't know, maybe in the first month or so that Pokemon Go was a thing, and had a really bad back injury for a while. I couldn't walk, like almost 3 months, and Pokemon Go was something that really encouraged me to like get out and walk and move, even though it was kind of painful and unpleasant as I was recovering. And before PvP, I'd hit level 40 and really kind of slowed down. Like there wasn't a whole lot like in the game that was super interesting at that point. And then PvP came, and my buddy Cody dragged me along to the Boulder Cup, and I got my ass kicked. Which kind of motivated me to figure it out.
No, I'm glad that PvP has helped you, and it's interesting to see someone else from another part of the world to come join, and that's awesome. Okay. And then why don't we move on to Exile?
I'm Exile Shurtugel. I'm from Portugal, and I started playing since before the release of the app in Portugal, in the official release. But there weren't many Pokemon, there weren't many stops, and I grew bored of the game. So eventually I stopped playing, and in December of last year, someone told me that PvP came out. So I decided to give it a try. I didn't really like it. I thought it was just tap, 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 and it's over. But then in January, my community, in Lisbon community, they started creating a tournament. Created a tournament, and I decided to join 2 days earlier, before the tournament. And even though I didn't prepare much of a team, it was really fun. And since then, I've been playing nonstop.
Okay, that's awesome. So, at first you weren't so sold on PvP. You like many other people initially thought it was just tapping, and then you joined the tournament, and then completely change your perspective. All right, that's awesome.
Totally.
All right, Omega, your turn. Tell us about yourself.
So, my name is Michael Omega Fenron. I'm from Edinburgh, Scotland. Started out playing Pogo as soon as the game came out. Sort of with each new update, came in, played it, kind of finished Gen 1, got the Pokedex. Gen 2 came out, finished that. After I finished the Pokedex each time, sort of became more casual. Maybe not as much of a daily player anymore. And then since PvP update, it's just been every day out looking. I just find it really fun, and it's the most enjoyable aspect of the game for me. And I find myself checking every Pokemon now because you never know what's going to be viable.
For sure. Now you were all about the being a collector beforehand, and now you're out trying to collect PvP IV ready mons, and it kind of serves another purpose to actually go and catch those Pokemon and to grind them out to help you formulate your team.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. All right. Yeah, it's both a blessing and a curse because be able to having to check every single Pokemon is it's kind of annoying, but it's also really fun when you. I'm sure we all have that really exciting moment when we check a Pokemon and it has really great PvP IVs.
Or even just the Endos.
A Alolan Golem at the Frankfurt airport. Nothing ever.
Absolutely. I remember for I think it was Totodile Day, I was like freaking out, screaming. They're like, wow, what is it, King? Did you get Hundo? Shiny Hundo? Tell me it was a Shundo, right? Everyone's so excited. I'm like, no, it's like a rank 5 Totodile. they were like, just be quiet, King. So, anyways, let's turn over to the Nut 93.
Yeah, hi. I'm the Nut 93 from Mainz, Germany, and my journey started when I weighed around 140 kilograms, and then I started to play Pokemon Go, and I just lost weight, and it was great, for sure.
Dude, that's amazing.
And I played very hardcore and moved to Mainz. I lived in a small town before, and I caught around 5,000 to 6,000 Pokemon a week in this time. And just before PvP came out, I had the great idea to spend all my Stardust I have, and I maxed out Licky Tongue and so on. And 3 days after this, the administration of Mainz, Morty, came and said, we do PvP now. And I said, okay, I don't have Stardust. I have to grind it. So I grinded more and more. And then we made our first tournament, and there were around 48 people, what was pretty good. And I won this, and I said, this is my thing. I want to keep it. And it's great since then. And the last days when this Switch system was out, I had a really hard time for hating to lose my PvP, but it's back, and I'm fine with it.
Totally.
I think we're all quite pleased that the change was reverted back in the Niantic list, and I think it was a pretty big relief.
It was a great feeling, yeah.
All right, perfect. Caleb, won't you take the second question?
Yeah, for sure. Also, for the Americans out there that don't know the metric system, 140 kilograms is about 309 pounds. So that's pretty incredible.
And the Nut is super fit now. If you guys haven't
yeah.
a good picture of him, like you would look at him and say this guy's an athlete.
Yeah, his Discord photo is him doing a lap pull down, so I believe it.
Sweet. That's amazing.
So anyone could take this question. What was your preparation for this tournament like, and how is it different from the monthly tournaments or cups or even regionals?
So
who wants first?
I mean, if anyone wants to answer.
Yeah, anyone can hop in.
You do first.
Okay, so it was really different to prepare for Worlds than it was for usual tournaments, because 1 month ago, until 1 month ago, I didn't have any Ultra friends to practice with. So I just PV poked sims and just ran simulations on my head on what to do in every situation and things like that. After regionals, I started getting some friends into Ultra, and it's also so I incorporated battles into the practice. More important than that, a friend of mine that has quite some experience in Pokemon Showdown, competitive Pokemon, uh, taught me the basics of it, and we tried to make a team following those basics. In the sense that we knew Altaria, and there will be a lot of Azumarill, there will be a lot of Skarmories, but there won't be that many tanks, and Altaria would only be threatened all the time by Azumarill, not much else. So we'd run Altaria, Victory Bell, so one carry and one thing to cover it, things like that. And we also had my community organized a tournament to simulate the worlds. They called it Exiled Surgical Stress Test, and it was real fun. It didn't went so well. I lost some matches, but yeah, it was fun, and it was some hardcore preparing for Worlds.
Cool. Awesome.
Nice.
I was just I did something very similar, whereas didn't so much organize the tournament. A few of the other high tier players from Edinburgh, we arranged a night where we all just went to the pub, and I made up a team of 6 and just challenged anyone to bring what they wanted and try and beat me, and I sort of did like a round robin fight against each of them.
You win your drink.
That would have been a brilliant idea. But no, but yeah, I had a bunch of people helping me out where my general thought was try to build a team around the restrictions, like pick what I wanted as a restricted pick. Try and build the team, stick it on my community's Discord, and just challenge people to fight me, as opposed to like having the whole restricted theme for each month, where they're practicing that. It was sort of they can bring anything to try and beat my team. I did like 50-50 between blind practice, where I couldn't see their team at all, and then where they would send me their team. So I'd say it was very different to usual tournament practice.
Yeah, definitely.
And how did those round robins go? Were you pretty successful? Did it force you to change your team at all?
I think I went through 3 or 4 different team comps of 6, because I started off with the Azumarill Skarmory core, and originally it was when I first tried Vigoroth, I wasn't keen. I wasn't like fond of it, like replacing Medicham. So I took it out, and then when people were bringing Vigoroth against me, everything was neutral against it, and it can just body slam hard. So then I went back to using Vigoroth on my team, and then I tried out compositions using like Medicham instead of Azumarill. And each time I went round, I sort of tweaked it a wee bit until I found something I was really comfortable with. But like the round robin went, normally when I could see the opposing 6, it went quite well. But then when people were bringing stuff blind to me, I was just getting ruined.
Yeah, it's definitely a very different style of battle when it's blind, for sure.
Yeah, I had a similar experience when I was doing the blind. I just got destroyed, but it gave me kind of an idea of things I hadn't looked at yet that I might need to. This was a very different tournament prep for me. I told you I was pretty bad at PvP at first, but I happened to join the Battle Park Xyonix Discord and get a couple of really awesome sparring partners. And I would say Pollo Hermano is like solely responsible for training me up to the point that I was, at the level to make Worlds. But he was also qualified for Worlds, so he didn't want to practice with me for Worlds. And so I kind of had to switch things around because I'd always trained with him because I didn't want to train with my locals. Unfortunately, I had a lot of good active locals who really wanted to help me out. They also organized a a tournament to prepare me that actually did go pretty well. In terms of trying teams out and figuring out the composition, I kind of went from the idea that I didn't want to bring Azumarill and Skarmory as the combo. It was so common at Chicago. I wanted to bring something different. I didn't really love Probopass, and so I saw some Azumarill Probopass combos, but I didn't think I really kind of wanted to do that. First, I tested out Tropius. Coming from Africa, I thought, okay, maybe we can represent Tropius. And then I tried it. I just couldn't quite get something working the way I wanted to. I tried. Then kind of my next thesis was, let's see if I can build something without Azumarill, and I really couldn't. So hats off to the guys who've made it to finals without. You guys are better than I am. And so one of the things that I've been doing throughout was just like testing against different finalist teams with some of my sparring partners, and then trying some of them out myself. And I kept coming back to Juice Master's team, which I thought was kind of interesting because everything was super tanky. There wasn't much that I needed to shield like automatically. For one, and then the other was that he wasn't a finalist, and I felt like he lost because he just kind of got put up against stuff where he didn't know the matchups. It was really off meta stuff compared to what we had seen, and I was just going to be super prepared for just about anything. Was at least my intention. Yeah, exactly. I mean, but then I missed a few things. As Exiled showed us, which was cool. Yeah, in previous tournaments I've gone through like the entire meta and compared my team in 5 or 8 different scenarios on a spreadsheet for each meta relevant mon and all the moveset variations. And I had intended to do this for Worlds, but with the change in the Sims and actually just being busy with work and like 30-hour travel to get there, I didn't actually complete that with anything but Azumarill. So that was like a bit of a hole in my prep. It was kind of ridiculous. All of our tournaments locally happen in the morning, and it was announced that this would happen in the evening. And because of some flukes with visas, I ended up needing to be in the U.S. kind of around the time that Chicago was happening. So I ended up going to Chicago, and I competed in the Open Worlds qualifier. I had a pretty good thing. I finished second to Ace Leader Sky that you featured, King. Mm-hmm. But then in the evening, I went to your tournament, and I just realized, like, as it got later and I got tired, I made so many bad mistakes. I didn't even enter my team comp right. Like, it was a disaster. So it helped me kind of prepare different to be ready to play late at night. I mean, the entire week before, I stayed up until 3 a.m. and slept until like 11. So that I would be awake.
Yeah. So you could adjust to the time zone. Yeah, certainly doing open qualifiers, and then my tournament, which was a pretty chaotic environment. It's definitely a lot to go through in one day, but I guess kind of puts you through some of the stress that you might be going through for season 1 championship. Actually, one question I did have is I noticed that this is a little bit different than other competitors, and let me know if I'm remembering wrong. You really like to take notes, if I recall.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I remember going around like while everyone else is preparing for their first match, you're like writing really intense notes. Like, can you tell the world what you're writing down? Are you just scribbling and doodling, hoping to throw off your opponents? Are you actually writing down some notes and comparisons and matchups?
I'm actually doing a lot of notes and comparisons. It was sort of like in lieu of the spreadsheets that I would normally do. Basically, I'm making notes to see what my coverage is against his team, so I can see it visually, and that I can kind of like act it out in a physical way because I need to once we actually play. So for me, it's useful to get it out of my head and actually use my hands to write it. So once I've done that, I can see what coverage I have, but I can also get a better idea of what on my opponent's team like covers me well, and so what they're likely to run, and then start to do a little bit of strategizing around that. You know, what I expect him to run against me.
All right, perfect. So I think this is a good time to move on to the next question, which I think some of you guys have covered in your answers. Well, I'll target these questions to the Nut 93 and Benny Fly. So if you guys could dual answer this question is first tell us your team of 6 that each of you guys had. How did you, and then tell us like how you came to the process of selecting that team, and then whether or not any of the teams in Chicago had any influence on your team selection. So whoever wants to go first between the two of you.
Yeah, I'll start, but I have to watch my team. I don't know it yet. If I'm right, it was Meganium as restricted.
Yep.
Yeah, I did a lot of theory crafting before the Worlds. Just with many guys on the Go Stadium server. And D9 and that boy Mark. And we thought, okay, there weren't many Altaria and Tropius in Chicago. So I built my team very weak against these two. And yeah, it ended up my first opponent had Tropius, my second had Altaria, my third had Tropius, and my quarterfinal had Altaria. It was a problem, for sure, but I was happy to make it that far. Yeah, but these were really my 2 only weaknesses. So I built around Ganyam very much, and it was a strong pick because it had so much neutral maps. I also built very tanky, like Evan.
All right, perfect. So I'm assuming that you designed your team purposely weak to Altaria and Tropius because of what you saw in Chicago?
Right, yeah.
Right. And
I asked many, and everyone told me, yeah, I think there won't be any Altaria.
Yeah, I think
Psych?
Everywhere. I sat there at my table and watched the group and saw around 3 Tropius and 2 Altaria, and I said, okay, screw it. I don't want to lose 3. I'm fine.
Yeah, certainly. I think a lot of people adapted once the tanks went away. It was kind of back to when PvP first came out and Altaria was just ruining everybody. Benny, how about for yourself? What was your team composition? How did you select your team?
For me, it was really easy because I just got second in my regionals and never thought I would qualify. So I'd go to the open qualify, win this. Had at Saturday morning 8:30 the knockouts. There they told us that more than one of us can qualify, and that was the first moment I really thought about my team. That I had my ticket for the Go Fest. So at the Go Fest, I thought about my team and what I really could bring at the Worlds. And so I really took the basics of the basics, like Scamry, Pokemon from the cups before I know many of the matchups. So I haven't the time to took the theory behind it. For the last weeks, Nat asked me very often to practice with him, but I also know I won't qualify for this, and so I have to take the east team as possible. So,
Yeah. I think one of our notes that we had, Zionic and I had, we were like going through the teams, and they were all like very different and like double flyers, using like different strategies and favoring different Pokemon, Relicanth, whatnot. And then I think we went down to your team, Benny Fly, and we're like, this is the most meta team. This is like probably like the team like if you were just to under pressure, give me 6. This is going to be the 6. So, and for those that don't know, obviously Benny alluded that he qualified through the qualification tournaments. And this is a question from Build a Castle for Your Friend, and this is for you, Benny. This person asks, do you think your play suffered from running the gauntlet, which means like doing the qualification tournament, doing the knockout, and then going to Worlds? Or do you think it was beneficial to have all that like extra battle practice?
I really don't know. No, it was a little bit too much practice at this weekend.
Yeah, it was certainly a lot of battles and obviously a different meta to deal with, and not having a lot of time to prepare your team. I'm sure made it pretty difficult. Obviously, you made it out of your group stage and did very well, which says a lot. All right, perfect. Caleb, you want to take the next question?
Yeah, definitely. So with the Worlds coming up in Santiago, what advice would you give people going to that competition, especially given the post update of a bunch of different moves, including Charm? Do you think some composition will differ, etc.?
Dude, do you think they should bring a Charm user?
That's a good question in the sense that I hadn't thought about the difference that Charm would make. Leaving Charm out of the equation, I really think people should take a good look at previous tournaments, previous Worlds, because Chicago's Worlds, people didn't have that much time to practice and think about it, and they still made really solid teams. Then in Europe, Dortmund, you could really see the difference in the time that people had to think about their teams. You could see more Altarias, more Tropius, more Bastiodons, a lot more diversity. So I think for the next cup, people will still, there won't be another Chicago. There will still be diversity, and I think there will be more double flyers, more tanks, the Bastiodon, the Probopass, less Azumarill, maybe less Skarmory. I don't know how many people took Skarmory in Dortmund, but way more diversified and open meta.
Yeah, before Charm came out, I kind of thought, oh, maybe we'll see a lot more Umbreon since Hypno's become like a lot stronger in the meta, and it's gotten, but now with Charm, it's a totally different story. So you're really interesting.
Yeah, and speaking of Hypno, what are your thoughts on Hypno's additional moves as well as Bronzon as well too? Those two big psychics.
I wish I had an additional move, a different move on Hypno. That would have been great. I mean, it's awesome now. People who have a Shadow Ball have a Shadow Ball Hypno, or like you really have to strongly consider it.
What punch would you bring?
Either Ice or Thunder.
Ice or Thunder, okay.
Probably Thunder.
Armory or Otaria.
I think I'd probably go Ice.
You go Ice just for Altaria?
But would you take Ice now or before Worlds? Because now you've seen the Altarias, the Tropius running around, but before Worlds you didn't see Altarias, you didn't see Tropius, you didn't see things like that. So Thunder would be the go-to choice for Azumarill and Skarmory, right? Now,
I think I'd probably been what I would have gone had I done it before. Actually, what it probably would have come down to is which ones the TMs landed on first.
Same.
The TM game for sure.
Like, it would really just depend on what other Pokemon you had in your team. Like
also true.
Like because I watched the stream back, and I like how Kiang, you mentioned that I love the Lantern. So because Lantern was such a staple for me, I would probably still have gone with Ice prior.
Okay, yeah,
Makes sense.
That makes sense. That makes sense. What do you guys think? Do you think anyone in Chile is it advisable to bring a charm user? Wigglytuff and Clefable are probably the two favorites. Caleb, what do you think as well? Since you deep dived into Wigglytuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think Charm definitely has a lot of utility, especially if you compare to the meta in Dortmund. And so against Altaria, it's going to do really well. But even against Sabewise or Umbreons, it's definitely something to scare your opponents off, even if you don't end up using it in your six. And just makes them play very differently because, if you don't prep for it and they bring it, it can definitely do quite a bit of damage. I think specifically in a more open meta than jungle, because jungle, you have a lot more probably focus on bringing steals or poisons to counter it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know at how much advantage you'd get from bringing a charm user, because previous Dortmund's worlds already proved that tanks are strong. Bastion Proboss are strong, definitely strong, and they'll run through a charm user. So, of course, I agree with Caleb's thoughts in the sense that it really brings pressure to the enemy's team, but I don't know at how much disadvantage to your team as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think Bastiodon Propass might be even stronger because there are probably less people wanting to bring Metacham and Hitmonchan with Charm around, even if no one brings a Charm user. Just that fear itself just kind of negates, especially Metacham as a restricted pick.
Yeah, the thing I keep waiting to see is a rise of Umbreon. I had some potential even changes to my team planned in case I did see a ton of Umbreons. But it really just seems like so few people have that last resort is probably what's holding me back.
I wanted to use one, but I didn't have the last resort, so...
Did you get one did you end up getting one?
No, I didn't.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. It was your time to ask right after the tournament. Someone definitely would have gave you one.
Oh.
That was your time.
I'll travel again. I'll go there.
Yeah. That was definitely your time. So,
I think I traded for around 20 last resort Umbreon to get a good IV one. So.
Oh, you traded for 20?
That's where they all went. No wonder we can't get one.
Excel's just he's slowly dying inside, thinking about those other 19 Umbreons that you trashed with last resort.
I'm sorry.
I guess like building off that question, would you, if Charm was introduced, or you could redo Dortmund? So if you could redo Dortmund and these Charm users would be available, would you change your team, or would you keep it the same? Think about it.
I don't think I'd have a Charm user.
I also don't think I'd run a Charm user, but against my team, a Charm would really be strong. I mean, I have Altaria, I have the Sableye, and the only thing I have that is good against Fairy is the poison from Victory Bell. So I definitely would have to make changes on my team.
I think Skarmory Bastiodon were my restricted then.
Skarmory Bastiodon. If you're going back and thinking about it, looking back at how the meta shifted in Dortmund, if you were to run it back.
Yeah, with my team, I think maybe a Wigglytuff with Charm would have fit the thesis of just bringing a lot of tanks that didn't need to shield constantly. So I would have had to take a strong look. I don't have any Jigglypuffs or Igglybuffs or Wigglytuffs right now, so that's the one limitation.
The question also we have Dragon Master's asking. He's asking which Charm user, but I think essentially it goes down to like Clefable or Wigglytuff. I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to look at the Sims or how they perform.
I only looked at Wigglytuff, and For jungle, it seems pretty nice. It's not mandatory. It's not super oppressive, but it's definitely a strong pick.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the
Checkpoints, right?
Kayla, I'm sure you dived more into the Clefable versus Wigglytuff, but I think the main difference, obviously, the typing. Clefable being pure fairy, and then Wigglytuff being fairy normal. So obviously Wigglytuff being neutral to fighting, but having that double resistance to Ghost, which is really useful against a lot of different Pokemon. And then the other major difference is probably the charge moves. I think Clefable, you probably want to run Meteor Mash and I'm not sure, like whatever its fairy move is, and then for Wigglytuff, Ice Beam and whatever fairy move you want to use.
Play rough.
Play rough, yeah, play rough. All right. Caleb, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think of what did you all think of the overall tournament structure at Worlds, and then what would you change and what would you keep? Me personally, I was hoping that there would be a little more matches. Obviously, all of you qualified through the initial rounds, but do you all think there should have been best of fives maybe in the finals or some other formats?
I guess I want to start off by saying it was super fun, and my friends who watched it and people from my community who aren't into PvP like loved it.
Same.
Said, it was like, I'm not into PvP, I want to start now, or just I'm not into it, but this was like emotionally gripping and this was so cool. What an amazing thing. So big ups to King and Zionic and Trainer Tip for making it super exciting. That was incredible. I got my butt kicked, but I had a great time. I had a smile on my face.
It wasn't butt kicked.
Yeah,
it was really close.
Fair enough. The one thing that I wished was different was that I had a chance to practice with an iPhone X. I don't know if you could tell in the second match, the first shield I threw up, I didn't intend to throw up. I don't know how it happened. And at some point during the second match, I actually went out of the game. And I guess it was just like my palm was on the side of it. So for the third match, you can see in the live stream, the guy handing me a case so that it works better. And so just like something like that would have helped a lot. I would say like in the third match, I was a little bit emotional about that second one and probably didn't play as well as I should have.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good feedback. I think what we want to do in the future is that we'll have 4 phones, 4 iPhone X. So while these 2 people are battling, you get to like play around with the phone, test things out, do some test battles, and get everything ready. And so when you go up, you can just plug in the iPhone X and be ready. And as well, we should tell the competitors ahead of time that they're going to be using iPhone X. It'd be helpful for sure.
Yeah, we got an email on Tuesday. It was like as I was getting on the plane to Dortmund, I'm like, oh, okay, we're using iPhone X's.
All right, fair enough.
I'd like to add something. I agree with Evan in the sense that it was really fun. I think the King, Zionic, and Train Chips really made it so much. When I got home and watched the stream, it was so fun to watch your reactions. But I really wanted to say one thing. I think it could be debatable in the sense that could improve. I think we all got lucky and got through our group stages, but it could be one little difference and we might have lost. And I don't know if I would change it personally, but I think it's kind of sad when you're at group stages and when you lose one game and your whole tournament's life ends there. So I don't know if I'd get a regular tournament format in a sense for everyone to play until the end. to play like instead of 3 people to play around like 6 people or 5 people, and so it would make, I know it would make a bit harder to manage, and maybe not as much fun for people watching, but at the same time it makes for a more rewardable experience for someone that's traveled to Dortmund, to another part of the world, just to practice in it, just to play in the tournament. So I don't know if I'd change it personally, but I think it's something to think of.
Yeah, certainly. I know the Chicago competitors, and I'm sure Caleb, you probably agree. I think a lot of them wanted like kind of like a 64 person or 96 person Swiss style tournament, and then build out the top 8 from there. Because like certainly it's a different experience if you lose your first match in the group stage, then you kind of feel different about
Empty inside.
I think the pressure in the group stage was really brutal. My blood pressure was so high, and I scratched my nose, and it began to bleed. And the whole first round, I stood there with the paper on my nose, just playing with my one hand.
I'm trying to imagine.
Nice.
I honestly thought that was part of your intimidation factor, right? Where your opponents would be like, "Oh man, I gotta let this guy win, or he won't make it out of this room."
Yeah, but it was really brutal. So I don't know. Lose one matchup and you lose your confidence, and it's over. I don't know if I like it, but I don't know if I like a 96 tournament, people tournament.
Yeah,
it's hard to say.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. Like, I'm with you guys. There's something that's kind of great about being randomly put in a group and just having to come out victorious. It makes for really wild potential teams, right? Potential teams and like great Cinderella stories, like Raging Taz being one of the last alternate, right, coming through. It's incredible. So I'm with both you, the Nut and Jose, that it could be interesting the other way, but it was really interesting and fun this way too. And we happened to get lucky. So
totally.
There's a lot of ways it could have gone differently.
Yeah, it sort of feels like it's a 64-person single elimination rather than like eight different group stages and then a final single elimination sort of format.
It's close. It's close.
Yeah. How did you find your playing at the group stages? Were your competitors friendly? Did you were they cheering you on afterwards? Or were they?
They were super friendly. I mean, the only thing I through this suggestion, this thought about the format of the tournament, exactly because of them. Because if I'd been in their place, I know I'd be as disappointed or sad as them. I could see it in their faces that they wanted to do better, and I mean, if I was in their places, I'd be, fuck. I needed to do better. So
yeah.
I mean, I'm saying this not to hit anyone, not to hurt anyone, but I know that me personally, I think I'd be kind of disappointed with myself. I would have needed to try harder and knew more about it.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that too, and I think a lot of people that end up in Worlds aren't really used to losing, especially getting knocked out in round 1 or round 2 of a tournament.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's probably a humbling experience for a lot of people too. And I kind of feel the same way a little bit about regionals too, right? Like even qualifying for Worlds, I had maybe 4 of my 6 rounds go to game 3, and they're all pretty close. And I probably wouldn't even be sitting here talking to you all if I didn't make it through with Alugia. So
yeah, certainly. I remember I was walking around watching people compete and competitors compete, and I remember someone's like, "Oh man, I'm not used to clicking the red one," when they were like conceding losing. I was like,
Oh yeah. I mean, people like Mars X Mango. He had 92% win rate. I had never heard about him, but when I watched the stream and I saw at 92% win rate, I was like, damn, he's good.
Yeah, I'm sure he's definitely not used to clicking that like that he lost. But then you can tell he was a little bit shocked afterwards. But yeah, that's like what happens when you have the best of the best play each other. Like almost anyone can win at that point in time.
Yeah.
And one small
Yeah.
decision can change everything.
It's I would say with the group stages, my group stage, like everybody was super friendly and supportive. People that I played against or just talked to during it ended up cheering me on and supporting me afterwards, which was really cool.
Also, yeah.
And despite it being hyper competitive and nobody being used to losing, like people were really cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there's definitely a degree of commodity because I know who was at each person's table when and when that person won, they were cheering extra loud because they're like you definitely want the person that beats you to go all the way.
Right.
So the back of the mind,
Zionic and table 3.
yeah, exactly. Zionic. He's definitely had a little bit of bias there. You could tell by he's like table 3 represent, table 3
Yeah,
go
yeah.
all the way because he wanted to say that he lost to the champion. So it's a really interesting camaraderie that people had amongst competitors and definitely going from rivals to cheering them on. It was a really cool sight to see.
Yeah, I felt like the crowd was amazing when you were sat down and about to fight. The cheers that you were hearing, and even sitting waiting in the hall, the cheers you were hearing for other people's games were incredible.
Yeah, how did you guys find that experience? Because I think that was something very different than in Chicago. In fact, that we had like a projection and that the crowd could actually see it. Because like in Chicago, it was a little bit of a mess because people had to stream it from their phones and it was all sorts of delayed. This time it was like basically shown in real time. Like how did it feel?
It added to the excitement. It added to the pressure. It made it more of a really like crazy cool experience. The one suggestion I would have, they tried to isolate us outside if you were still in, so you didn't know about other people's movesets.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to do a little bit better job of that.
Oh, really? Yeah. Tell us what happened. Tell us what happened.
I won't go into any specifics of what I saw or heard. But the thing that's really difficult to do is it wasn't even like people that people knew before. It's like, oh, you're from my country, I'm going to give you tips, right? And so and you're going to have a lot of trouble stopping that if we're sitting in a place where we're accessible. If you want a good example of another sport that does this well, look at rock climbing, because you get a lot of advantage from seeing other people climb a route, and they have a very smart isolation system for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree.
In the end, I will say that what people heard, they didn't end up getting matched up, so it didn't make a difference.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really important. Actually, in fact, the original setup was originally they were like, oh, we'll just turn the competitors around. So like they're actually what they wanted to do originally was have we actually only want to stream Self Arena. Some members of Self Arena only want to stream match 1 like in the quarterfinals, and then match 1 in the show both semifinals, and then have the finals. And they were like, we're just gonna have the other 3 pairings sit down there. And I'm like, no, definitely not. Like they need to leave the room. And then so I think definitely working on the isolation would be really helpful. But we tried our best, but it's a work in progress for sure.
I totally agree. I think the format the isolation part of the participants or the finalists and the people watching the stream and the big screen, the big projection. I think it was really nice. We could hear the cheering, and even though it might add a little pressure to us, it's so much more fun for the people watching, and even for the people playing the game. So I think that was the best possible solution. But I do agree with Evan that perhaps we needs a bit more secure isolation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the crowd just isolation really helpful. The crowd going crazy was unreal. Okay, I do have a question for you guys. So we provided noise canceling headphones for you guys. Is there any reason why you didn't wear them?
Totally. I didn't wear them because it was like this. Uh, it gave a lot of pressure into my head. So
Okay.
I am not used to play with headphones even. So when I tried it, I thought, well, it's supposed to give advantages because you can hear the sound. So let's try it. But then I tried it and it was really oppressive. It was clenching my head, so I didn't like it at all. And I took it out even before the first match.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Yeah, the headphones.
Yeah, because during the finals, like the final XL between you and Raging Taz, Zionic was commenting. I'm like, Zionic, you have to be a little quieter because the room was absolutely silent when you guys
But we
started.
couldn't hear you guys. I think I don't remember hearing you guys anytime.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. But I just wanted to make sure that we weren't too loud that you guys couldn't hear us.
Yeah,
'Cause we noticed that you guys weren't wearing the headsets, and man, we went through a lot through that setup. You know, because originally they sat you down, there wasn't a board, you know, between you guys and the screen. And Zionic made a really good observation. He's like, people can just see out of the peripheral vision, right? And all you have to see is like a faint color to know the difference between like if it's a play rough or a hydro pump, right? Or if it's an acid spray or a leaf blade. Like all you have to do is like the slightest of your eyes. So
Yeah, but to do that, you'd need to be like leaning to the side with your head, and at that pressure at that tournament, you're always looking at the phone and thinking, what do I do next? What do I do next? What do I do next?
Absolutely.
So
No,
it isn't exactly a problem, I think.
for sure. We just don't want to cause any controversy. I think it's
Yeah.
more so the main part, but definitely went through a lot to try to think through what it was going to be like. All right.
I was just going to say, normally I do play with headphones, but so I can hear the moves. And with these noise canceling headphones, it wasn't connected to the game, so it didn't provide like the normal cues.
Yeah, normally
that
we actually wanted to set it up with noise, but then it was set up, and then we realized like when you connect an HDMI to an iPhone, it just routes the noise through the HDMI and not allow you to connect through the Bluetooth again. And it was like it was a very complicated situation. So, but certainly something that we need to work on and to address going forward. Okay, good. How about for Benny and the 93? He's probably out for a walk, right? Catching some Pokemon. Right? Gotta maintain that 5,000 Pokemon caught a week for you, Benny.
There's no break.
how was the crowd environment?
It was amazing. Every move you do, the crowd shoot out so loud. You know, very big move from your opponent, and I was completely confused from all the people who sit there and watch fight, and a lot of them pay entries just to see how we fight there, and it was so amazing to meet people you seen I seen the open qualify before or. And they all supported us. It was really, really amazing.
It was amazing to have people come up to us and say, "Oh, you played really well. It was really nice to watch. The crowd was really really amazing."
Yeah, obviously the highlight of the night, Excel, and we have to ask this question: was what was your mindset going through on that switch
Yeah.
against Mars X Mango? Because I definitely think that switch, even though you didn't really need it to win the match, but definitely shook him afterwards, and the crowd just absolutely went nuts. Like, walk
Yeah.
us through that mindset and what your thoughts are when you heard that reaction.
So the reaction was awesome. Even Mars X Mango, having like 10 times more battles than me. Even he got surprised by the switch. When I rewatched the worlds, I saw in the clip that when I made a switch, he couldn't see exactly the switch in his screen. He pressed Ice Punch, and when the Ice Punch hit, he was like, "What? What's Altaria doing there?" So it was really nice to to listen to the crowd, and I I think it was awesome because the when you're in a in a normal battle in tournaments, you're just 1v1 without people watching, and you both know what everyone does, but there's no real cheering and no real support. But when the play happened in the tournament, it was awesome to listen to the crowd. Oh!
Yeah, it was.
So
Everyone was
it
freaking
adds
it
a lot more to the game.
for sure. All right, Caleb, you want to take the next question? Really?
Yeah, for sure. So, it hasn't even been 8 months since competitive PP has been out with Silpharina. And so, what are your thoughts on kind of the future of Pokemon PvP? Do you think it'll be an esports? Just even like 1 year down the road, what do y'all think the game's going to develop into?
I sort of think that the current format, like if you're watching a final, a best of three is still very short.
Mm-hmm.
For like a lot of people to tune in, and a lot of people that watch esports, generally the matches are a lot longer than the matches we play. So I don't know if down the road maybe it turns into best of fives, best of sevens, even more. But I reckon if improvements keep coming to the PvP system and the battles can be longer or just longer match rounds, then I think it could be if it stays popular and keeps gaining popularity.
Yeah, definitely.
What you said made me a question in my head that would you keep a normal format in the sense that tournaments in 1 day, or would you adopt other esports ways of doing it, that like every weekend or every day of the week there would be a set of matches and you'd go like a league collecting points?
No, I think that's an interesting format for sure.
So I really think Pokemon Go has what it takes to go and get and be in any sport, but I don't see it happening yet. I really think it has what it takes, but I don't think there's enough support from Niantic for it to become an esport. I think Silpharina has done a fantastic job, but I don't think that without the producers, the publishers of the game backing it up, I don't think it can get to the esport scene.
So you think that support from Niantic or the Pokemon Company will be super
If
critical?
if you look at it at other way in comparing, if you look at League of Legends, for example, they post updates every 2 weeks, and even if something is broken, is too strong, they'll fix it sometimes in the middle of the week without even having to patch it. So it takes like a regular approach to keeping the game. And Niantic up until now has made like 2 updates in 6 months or something. and I don't think it's nearly enough. When you see that a Pokemon is super strong, I don't. I actually think that Pokemon Go can have Pokemon stronger than others, of course, but I think the meta should be more updatable by Niantic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Any other?
I think, the first step to take is a partnership with Silk Road. They have so many good ideas, and Niantic have to work together with them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully they I know they have some discussions, and some people that are in Niantic's ears, but we'll see how far those conversations and dialogue do take. So Omega brought up an interesting point. What do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about a best of 5? Would your approach be different than a best of 3, or would it be the same?
It would be kind of different in the sense that when you lose, in a best of 3, you already know I can't screw up anymore. I need to play to my best chances of winning, and I can play as much mind games as I could in a best of 5. So it's more restricting in the way you play, because when you bet it all. Instead, in the best of 5, you can bet in a game and take an advantage and win one game or lose, but you can still make it back. So it's more. It allows for more play, for more diverse play.
Okay.
So that's I think actually kind of what I like about a best of 3 is that anyone can come away with the win, right?
True.
With 1 or 2 good reads, the person who's got a less good team and is a less good player could potentially beat the other.
So
That's also true, yeah.
Creates more of a Cinderella, some more drama in the matchup, which I think is important.
It's a good point, yeah.
What do you all think about as the game develops? Something that I've always thought would be an interesting concept is having like almost like team battles. So like you and like 2 friends going against 3 other players in some format and stuff like that. Like I wonder, in my mind, I feel like that would build up the community more, because right now I think the game is pretty individualistic in terms of your success. Obviously, you're rooting for certain your friends and stuff, but it's really one person that gets the glory at the end of the day. And so, what are your thoughts on that? Would you be in favor of it? Not in favor of stuff like that?
You're talking about duel battles, like 2-on-2, for example.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be within the game. It could be, like me, you, and the Nut versus 3 other players, and we each match up 1 versus 1 against our
Kind of
respective
Like,
opponents.
if you imagine if you play like team chess tournaments, right? It's like still
Exactly.
individual, but you're matched up with someone else, right?
Right.
Like your results will have impact not only on your own gameplay, but in your own matchup, but also on the team.
I think that would be very interesting. On the one hand, it's you need your friends right now to practice. We all wouldn't be there without our practice partners.
Mm-hmm.
In a real team tournament, it would be very interesting. But Caleb, if I play perfect and you lose, I'll screw you.
That's true. That's
It's
true.
very similar. I would also love.
I like him saying that if I lose and if I win and you lose, you see where he believes would win.
The Nut 93 is a confident individual. Yeah.
I think team battles could be fun, but I reckon you could break a lot of friendships if you got.
That's true. Does that now already happen when you match up with your training partner at local clubs?
No. I really thought your idea about at least you gave me the idea of the dual battles, and the way I imagine it could be really awesome. The amount of depth it would take into strategy, it would be giant, in a sense that if you, instead of seeing 1 Pokemon in your phone, you could see 2 on your side and 2 on the others, and choose your targets accordingly and switch accordingly. It would give a lot of depth into the game.
for sure.
How far as it would, if I see it happening, I don't really see it happening because Niantic doesn't support PvP that much. I mean, I can't really say this because they reverted it and it was awesome, but I think for the PvP to grow that much, I think that Niantic needs to step up their game, and it might be awesome to have dual battles.
Dual battles in Pokemon
Two v
Go
two at the same time.
PvP would be pretty intense. Like
Yeah.
the real time aspect of it would just be very insane to
Right.
to see.
I think it could increase the level of skill and decrease
A lot.
the amount of luck that's needed. Because a lot of times, 1v1, you pick a bad lead. That's
Yeah.
bad, and you're fighting uphill for the rest of the battle. When if you get a good lead, you can sort of stay back on it and have an easy ride through. Where dual battles, you can both pitch in, both cover each other, and it's a lot more skill and a bit less
I
luck.
totally agree.
Yeah. And I feel like the meta would probably diverse a lot too, right? Because maybe your partner's going
Totally.
very tanky Pokemon, you're going the heavy hitters and stuff like that. You can really just diversify just what people are using too.
Yeah. it would be-
Just imagine if you had a 13-second cooldown on the switch, and you had 2v2, and you have a Razor Leaf, and they have a Wish Cache. They need to switch. Then you need to switch, and it would be a switch fest. It would be awesome.
yeah. For
We
sure.
know why.
It would be definitely a ton of fun. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, it'd be great. But I do think that Niantic has shown through listening to the community that they're at least listening and paying attention.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
And I think
I love you. Thank
you. Absolutely. And I think the fact that the Pokemon company itself is focusing way more on mobile games is both a good and bad thing, but I think a good sign for Pokemon Go, because I think they understand that there's a huge player base here, and they definitely want to mobilize this large player base. And I think PvP and making esport is a viable way, and hopefully they see that vision. So even if Niantic doesn't necessarily want to do it directly, I think the Pokemon company might be able to put a little pressure and put a little incentive.
Let me add a comment on that. I even though I said Niantic didn't support enough Pokemon Go PvP to make it an esport, I really think that they've made an awesome product. The PvP, it's when I first saw it, I thought, come on, it's just tapping. What do I need to do? But then when I entered the tournament, the amount of strategy behind it, the team building, the switching, the when to use the charge move, the product is really well made. And I think they really took it in the right direction. They took a little bad step in bad updates, but in essence, the game is awesome. And they just need to support it a little more in the sense that give it more updates, give it more rebalancing, support it more with conjunction with Silpharina. I don't think it necessarily needs to be a conjunction with Silpharina, but give it support similar to the Silpharina. Not necessarily with or without, but supports closer to the Silpharina.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, I think that brings us to our last question, and we'll start with Benny and the Nut on this one. What advice would you have for people that want to get into competitive PvP?
Watch King's videos.
I've actually really...
there are plenty of things you can do. First of all, really watch the YouTubers. They make a fantastic job. They explain everything. I highly recommend to join the Go Stadium Discord server. The discussions there are awesome, and you find very much practice partners. Record your battles. You can learn a lot if you rewatch them. And yeah, take your friends and practice. But Ash would say you have to need your knowledge.
I lost finals because of that knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Benny, anything you want
The
to
most the most important part is to practice. You have to know what to do in which moment, and you just find out if you practice. Find a community who has tournaments, go there, find new people, find new friends, and practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's good advice. Evan, anything you'd like to add
Yeah,
on that?
if you're really just getting started, I would say probably start with Battle Heroes Simplified Meta, and then maybe
Agree.
look at Elite Four TV's How to Build a Team. You usually got a good spreadsheet there to help you get an idea of what covers what. I would say King stuff is a little bit more advanced once you kind of understand that stuff, and same with Caleb and some of the other guys. And then after, I would try to do a good balance of looking at sims and actually testing things out, because sometimes things don't work out quite the way the sims look.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I personally love Battle Heroes Simplified Meta Guide. I think it's like every time I look at different meta guides and on Go Stadium and on those are great too, but Battle Hero is definitely a master at presenting the most simplistic view on a complex meta.
And making it fun.
Yeah, and making
Yeah.
it fun. Yeah, he has a lot of quirky sayings for sure. A lot of memorable sayings, and I was really hoping to see that oil wrestling match between him and John Hankey.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
Would you host it?
yeah. And Exile, how about yourself?
So I want to agree with everyone, but at the same time I want to disagree with everyone.
Okay.
Because I think the most important thing to learn PvP is to learn it as you enjoy it. In the sense that if you only enjoy battling, go battle. If you enjoy looking at spreadsheets, go look at spreadsheets. If you enjoy watching the YouTube videos, go watch YouTube videos. And if you really want to be good, you might need to have a little bit of everything. But if you really like to learn in a certain way, just do it. Because if you don't like to battle, this was a bad example because everyone kind of needs to like to battle to play this game. But if you don't like to watch spreadsheets, for example, don't do it. Just practice, talk to your friends, watch the YouTube, and complement your knowledge in other ways. Just you don't need to focus in just one way of getting better. Just do it as you enjoy the most. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really good advice, because I think sometimes you can get overwhelmed by all the different techniques, or you're worried like, oh, this person plays this way or does this or has these spreadsheets or whatnot,
and you have time to learn, so you don't need to spend all your time looking at a spreadsheet or looking at all the YouTube videos there are. You can go step by step, learning like 70% from the way you love to play the game from, or watching videos, or battling, and then the other 30% learning from the other sources all you said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, we're here to play Pokemon Go and to ultimately enjoy it. I think that's excellent. Omega.
But again, just the same as the other guys have said, the YouTube meta simplified videos that everyone puts up are very helpful for learning about each cup. I also want to add about the Silph Arena subreddit, because I've looked at that sometimes, and some people have put up some very good off meta picks, explains their reasoning for using all that. And sometimes there's a lot of information put in some people's posts on the subreddit about it. I like a lot of the nifty and thrifty ones for the people that are
Same.
reluctant for their Stardust.
Me.
I know there's a lot of players in my community that do not like to spend their dust. But yeah, check out videos, simulations, and subreddit, and then just practice. familiarize yourself with all the mechanics, and getting used to how much moves will hit you for, how much moves will deal out.
For sure. I think PvP is like the amount of resources and different resources out there, you know, how quickly, you know, PvPoke and Poke Battler and all these websites update on the cups and all these move changes like so immediately is amazing. The amount of time people put into those Reddit posts and understand different people's gameplay and preferences, and then the Go Stadium, Battle Park, all the discussions, and then the Self Arena. It's like it's amazing to see everyone come together and really create this like really dynamic environment for.
I'd
for
also
people
like to add that without PvPoke or the YouTube, I'd be way worse than I'm right now. The resources you have out there are amazing to get better at this game.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like even how much PvPoke has changed. Shout out to PvPoke. How much PvPoke has changed and adapted and really taking advice from like really advanced gameplay mechanics, but also making it super simple to use. That like someone that has never PvP'd before could like easily look up and click on a couple things and learn right away is just it's amazing. It's an amazing website and how involved he is in the community and how engaged he is we're definitely very fortunate for how much work he has put into.
He's also a very nice guy.
Oh, he's an amazing guy. So nice and so very genuine. I should go visit him in Minnesota. So definitely I remember seeing that website back in December, like when it was trialed. I'm like, oh, this is kind of neat. I never imagined like how far he would take it and
it evolved a lot.
Evolved a lot and how useful it is and how much it changed, because like a lot of these websites they just build it and then they kind of like don't really change. They're like, oh, we could do this, but it's too complicated. He just takes on every challenge and adjusts and adapts and makes
pretty
it
fast.
Yeah, and makes it for the masses and then as well for really advanced and technical players, which I think is something that people would find really difficult otherwise. All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for all your enlightened discussions, and thank you, Caleb, for your insights and for your cat as well for helping host the stream. The stream will be posted later on YouTube, so you guys can check it out. But I think we learned a lot. Caleb, any closing final words that you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, just to go off of that last question too, for those that are looking to get into the competitive scene, I think first step is just going to a local cup. I think it could be intimidating for a lot of people, and it's okay if you don't win all your matches or even lose most of them. I think most of us here have probably had a bad cup or two, unless you're like Mars X Mango. But other than I think just going to more of it and feeling more comfortable will really help build some confidence and at the very least build some relationships and sparring partners throughout the way.
Yeah, and make some friends. You go to the cup and then you make some friends, and you don't know where that friendship's gonna take you, right? Certainly.
Exactly. Yeah, you might end up on King's stream one day. So
yeah, exactly. Well, thank you everyone for joining the stream, and thank you, gentlemen, for all your words and insights and perspectives. And I personally really enjoyed it. And best of luck, and hopefully I'll see you guys in season 2 championships as well.
Thank you for the opportunity, and we'll do our best to get there, for sure.
Fingers crossed.
It's not going to be easy.
All right, take care, guys.
We have experience in our side.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, everyone.